The new year brought in a new look for BBC One, after 10 years of a Circles idents. The channel logo is still the same as it has been for the last 10 years, and the oneness slogan is being continued from the previous Christmas idents, which ended up being the last additions to the Circles package. The first new ident aired between the end of Robbie Williams Rock's Big Ben and Miranda Hart's live show. I only found out about this after seeing a new thread on TV Forum titled New Look BBC One 2017, just before the first ident was aired. This was a last-minute notice compared to the ITV rebrand of 2013, in which we knew about weeks in advance. My hope was that 1 was going to go the same route as 2, by reinstating an old ident package like when they reintroduced the 90s classic variations, only by placing an updated dog in the bottom right-hand corner. It was even stated on the bastion of accuracy that is known as Wikipedia that the famous balloon was going to make a return to our screens. Not surprisingly, I got my hopes up and could not wait for the launch. But then the first ident popped up and I got a sense of disappointment, which later turned into disbelief.
A visit to the beautiful Yorkshire Dales country file is coming up after the New Year's Day.
Well, that's Wikipedia for you. There might not be a hot air balloon in sight, but there is still a blast from the past. These idents replicate the dancer idents shown on BBC One between 2002 and 2006. This is not what I would have wanted to see as a new ident. I never liked the dancers, and by the near of the end of their reign, I was longing for a return of a globe, preferably in the form of a hot air balloon. These new idents are, in my opinion, a step backwards from the Circles, and I would even say that the 2002 dancers were better than these. Says all, doesn't it? This is mainly because there was a creative side to the Circles, whereas these idents do not show much creativity at all, except for the logo formation at the bottom of the screen. For me, it feels like it's just a generic clip with a dog placed at the bottom. On the first day of airing, only 2 idents were introduced, compared to the number of balloon shots in 1997, dance routines in 2002, and circle formations in 2006. More idents were introduced later on, and maybe there are more to follow. Some additional idents include the Mountain Rescuers and the Wheelchair Rugby team. Some new stings to accompany the idents were also introduced, which comes as a rarity in this day and age. Some of the other idents to join the pack include a special ident for Let It Shine featuring the stars of the show and the BBC One logo, but with a star replacing the O, making it look like you are watching BBC Starner, and a clip of a silent forest which was aired in the early hours of the 15th of January, before handing over to the BBC News. For me, this shows a lack of continuity with the recurring theme of the ident package. A problem with the Let It Shine ident is with the logo being placed in the middle as opposed to the bottom. The forest ident, however, does look like a nice ident and works well for a close down, but it shows no relevance to the dancers or swimmers. I liked the Circles at first, but as the years drew on, I felt it was maybe time to move on, and I never rated them as high as the balloon. Another problem with the Circles in the later years was the fact that the circle became invisible, especially in some of the special idents, which made it feel as if the BBC One logo was just being placed over generic clips, and thus void the channel of a strong symbol. Examples of these are seen in the themed idents for The Hunt and Planet Earth 2. I feel that, at the moment, BBC One is missing a strong symbol, like it had with the globe, and like BBC Two today with the numeral 2. BBC One should maybe do the same thing as Swiss broadcaster SRF1, where a large numeral 1 is present across various locations in Switzerland. I like these idents as they draw similarity to the balloon ident and to another of my favourites from yesteryear, as seen on Channel 4. This will work well for BBC One, due to the use of red, which has been the primary colour of the channel since the 90s, and the numeral can act as the next globe by acting as the channel symbol like the 2 for BBC Two. Maybe we can have a large numeral 1 standing by the banks of the Thames or in Snowdonia. The new BBC One idents also draw comparisons to the 1993 Carlton idents by the use of live action and stating of location and role of the people involved in the idents. At the time, you can say Carlton were ahead of the times with their use of live action, which would not be much in the mainstream until a decade later with the BBC Dancers and the ITV Celebrity idents. When Carlton introduced these idents, objects flying through space and logos on background were still commonplace across terrestrial TV and the upcoming satellite platform. These latest BBC One idents also have similarities to the incumbent set of ITV idents, as can be seen with the swimmer idents used by both stations. You may have guessed that the balloons are my favourite all-time BBC One idents. This might be helped by this being my favourite time of BBC branding, not just because the twos were getting up to the shenanigans on the other side, but also the strong sense of cross-network branding, with a corporate look which sported identical logos for all channels and the use of Jill Sands across network. For me, the BBC has a weaker brand on screen than 20 years ago, as the different channels and different services use different fonts and have different styles of logo. The networks which do have a strong sense of corporate across-channel branding today are Sky and ITV, with the use of their identical logos and fonts for all their channels. To conclude, BBC One did need a rebrand, but for me, this was not the way to go about it, and not the way I would have liked to have seen the channel being presented. This is a throwback to the past, but not a glorious past in my eyes. I do not ever recall liking the dancer idents, and have never had any nostalgia for them whatsoever. I feel that the balloon would still look good today, as has been shown by Channel 4 in the previous decade and in Switzerland by drawing their similarities. One silver lining is that the twos are still present on the sister channels, but how long now until they bite the dust for something I would consider dull and drab? It feels as if we are back in the 2000s, with ITV and BBC's ident package echoing one another with a live action, but maybe they are now too similar to each other. Most importantly, BBC One needs a strong symbol to identify the channel, just like BBC Two and the twos. I have the impression that idents seem less important to the broadcasters now, hence less effort is being put into them. I am Tim Goodwin, over and out. Take care and peace.